So spring's rolling around, it's almost here, and I know I've done a jerky video in the past, and that was done with ground jerky. But over the winter, for Christmas, I got this neat dehydrator, and I've been messing around with it over the winter, making a few batches of strip jerky, or jerky cut from muscle meat strips. And I've come up with a great recipe, and I want to use it, one, because jerky is a great snack to have along for quick energy when you're out there fishing for those early season trout or hunting turkeys and you need a quick bump when you're running and gunning, or whatever your pastime may be. If you're out hiking just to enjoy the spring woods, having some jerky along for the ride is a real tasty way to take a break. Now, there's another reason, is we just finished grinding our burger and sausage for a year. We did 50 pounds of sausage, and we did a 200-pound grind of venison burger for the season, so we're pretty set for meat. But while I was pulling all those trimmings out of our chest freezer to get ready to grind, I found this. Hiding down in there underneath all that meat that we got last year was this beautiful roast from the 2020 season. I'm going to take this and turn this into some tasty jerky treats. Now, the way we want to get started here is we want to take this meat and slice it thin into about a 1/4 inch thick strips. You want to try to keep all the strips as uniform in size and thickness as possible. We're just going to cut this down. You can use any spare meat you have for this. I'm using a roast here just because I found this, and it's not from last season. It was buried from the season before. It got overlooked as we stacked other meat on top of it. But you can use any type of roast you might have. If you have some back straps, you can use those if you want to. I prefer to cook my roast, but my back straps. But these roasts are can be tough, especially a big one like this from Big Old Buck. This is about a 2-pound chunk of meat here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut some of it lengthwise, and then I'm going to turn it around and cut some of it against the grain. If you cut with the meat grain, you're going to have a softer piece of jerky. If you're cutting it against the grain, across the grain, you're going to have a little bit more chewy piece of jerky. It does make a difference. Now, once you've got this cut down into nice uniform strips, you're going to want to take your knife and go through the pile of meat, finding any little pieces of fat or membrane. Get all the fat cut away from this meat, as much as you possibly can, because you want to make your jerky with just pure meat. Now what we're going to do is turn our attention to the marinade. We're going to marinate this meat, and this is one of the best recipes I have found online. I've tweaked it a little bit myself. It's a sweet teriyaki marinade. Now, what we're going to use for this, we're going to get a bowl here. Let's see, we're going to get 1/2 cup of Worcestershire per pound. I'm doing 2 pounds, so I'm using a whole cup. 1/2 cup of Worcestershire. We've got half a cup of any teriyaki marinade. You can find that in the store. The teriyaki makes a really nice jerky mix. It smells good coming into the bottle. You're going to want to use 1/3 cup of soy sauce. Like like I say, I'm doubling these portions. So if you're making 2 pounds, just go ahead and double it. We also have some lemon juice here. No cap won't pull off. I'm going to bite this on top. I'm going to be unsanitary. Hang on. There we go. Okay. Use a tablespoon of lemon juice here per pound. And what's going to give it this little bite is a teaspoon of hot sauce per pound. I got the Texas Pete here, but any hot sauce will work. Now that's going to give it a bite. Be mild on the hot sauce too, because I know it's tempting to go ahead and load it up, but just a little bit goes a long way when this is done. Now, the dry ingredients we need, what do we got here? We got brown sugar. I'm going to go with 1/2 cup per pound. Brown sugar. That's going to give it the sweet flavor. 1 tablespoon of ground black pepper per pound. 1 tablespoon of garlic salt per pound. And then we're going to need 1 tablespoon of onion powder per pound. And finish that off with a teaspoon of paprika per pound. A teaspoon of this, not a tablespoon. Go ahead and whisk all those ingredients together thoroughly. Don't be shy, get it well mixed. And when we're done with that, we're going to just lay these strips, these beautiful tasty strips, right in the marinade here. And when you've got all your meat in the mixture, go ahead and just stir them up. You can go ahead and just use the whisk that you used before. Just make sure you get them well coated with your marinade. And this, you want to let this soak for 24 hours. So we're going to cover this up, put it in the refrigerator, and I'll see you tomorrow afternoon. Alright, so the next day after your jerky has marinated for at least 24 hours, you want to go ahead and start things by getting your dehydrator ready. Now I want to heat the dehydrator up to 165 degrees. And before I do that, I'm going to take the trays out of it and line the bottom with a paper towel to catch the drippings as the jerky dries. It'll make cleanup a lot easier. Some people say use parchment paper, but I think parchment paper can help obstruct the airflow, and I like to use paper towel. Air goes through it. There's no danger of the paper towel catching on fire at low temperatures like you'll be using with the dehydrator. So I am going to preheat this to its high setting to get started, 165, and I'm going to let it get hot for about half an hour. Now after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my jerky strips and I'm going to go ahead and blot them on a paper towel. I'm going to take them out of the marinade and try to wring the excess marinade off them And then when I've got them spread out on the paper towel, I'm going to take another layer and just blot it on top very gently. I'm not going to press and squeeze the marinade out of it, but I want to get the liquid that's coating it off. Then I'm going to spray my racks with a no-stick vegetable spray. And I'm going to arrange the jerky on the racks with plenty of space between them. You don't want them touching. You want the air to be able to flow smoothly around your jerky strips. Once you've gotten that all done and your dehydrator is preheated, all that's left to do is take your racks of jerky and stick them in here, open, and get the drying process started. You're going to want to leave this run at about 165 for an hour or so. That'll bring the internal temperature of the meat up to a safe temperature of 165. Okay, first hour is over. We're going to take a look at our jerky now and see how it's doing. We go ahead and open this up and pull these trays out. Okay, it's a little warm. 165 is still a little hot. But take a look at it. See how it's drying. Looks pretty good. Occasionally you'll find that there's a little bit of the marinade pooling on top of the jerky. If that's the case, just take a paper towel and blot off any moisture that's accumulating on it. This batch looks like it's doing pretty good right now. And you go ahead and close that back up and reduce the temperature from 165. We had it at 165 for the first hour. That should be enough to bring the temperature back up to where it heats the jerky up to a safe temperature. But you don't want to dry it for the entire time at 165. We'll put it down to about 140, 145. If you leave it up at 165, it's going to be way too warm to dry your jerky. Trust me, I wound up with potato chips the first time I did this. So go down to about 140, 145. We're going to let this roll for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. We're going to come back and check it again. Okay, so it's been about an hour and a half, and I'm going to pull the jerky out and take a good hard look at it at this point. It's still not done, but it's getting a lot closer. We're probably an hour, hour and a half off from having this done. At this point, you want to go ahead and flip it. Make sure it's not sticking to your racks. And it doesn't hurt to check a few of the thinner pieces just to make sure they're not getting done ahead of the rest of the batch. We're going to put it back in here. Let it keep drying for another hour or so. You do want to keep your eyes on this at this point, because in an hour the thinner pieces are probably going to be done. The thicker pieces in here may need another 2 hours, but you don't want to just let it all go. It's not going to finish at the same time. In an hour or so, we're going to start watching the thinner pieces and removing them, letting the thicker pieces cook longer. Yep, that piece is looking right good. Now I found that this jerky, cooking it at these temperatures, it'll take anywhere from 4 to 6 hours to dry. You want to start looking at it real hard after about 4.5 hours, because the thinner pieces and the pieces that were less moist will dry more quickly than the thicker, moist pieces. The way you can tell this is done is you're going to want to go ahead and bend it. It should be pliable, and it should bend easily and fracture, but not break. If it's breaking, you've dried it too long. If you squeeze it and it feels mushy through the center, it's still too moist. It should feel hard and be pliable, but not break. Now from 4 to 6 hours, check this every 15-20 minutes. Pull out the pieces as they get done. Set them aside on a paper towel. Now, this stuff is tasty and it's really good. It's a great thing to have out on your outdoor adventures. Unfortunately, I was making this for some turkey scouting trips. Our turkey season is about a month out, and I was going to get it and do some scouting. As you can see, it's March 12th, and we're having a hell of a snowstorm. We've got 4 to 5 inches of snow on the ground. So, I don't think I'll be using this particular batch anytime soon. So to store it, if you're going to be storing it for a week or two, you can put it in a plastic bag. I like to put a paper towel in the plastic bag. It helps the jerky keep from getting tacky by absorbing any moisture that sweats off it while it's in the refrigerator. Or if you're like me in this situation, you can go ahead and just put it in a vacuum sealed bag and freeze it for a few weeks, a month, however long, until you need it again. Later this spring, I'll take the frozen packages back out of the freezer and have those. So, I hope you like this jerky recipe. Give it a try. This teriyaki jerky makes a really good mix, and it's one of my favorites that I found over this winter. Go ahead and give some strip jerky a try with the Dehydrator for your next outdoor adventure, and I hope y'all will go ahead and subscribe to us here at Sharing the Outdoors on YouTube, because we've got a lot of good adventures planned coming up this spring. And we'll be eating some of this jerky on them too. So, hope to see you again soon. You can find us on the web at www.camochairproductions.com.
Excuse me, I hear you talking in here.
What's happening?
I'm just going to steal a little piece.
We'll be having this batch if it lasts until we get out on our next fishing trip. How is it?
Oh, it's really good.
Is it really good? Okay.
Oh.
I'm going to try a little piece.
This one's a lot better.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really good.
Yeah, I'm getting the hang of this now. Hey, we'll see you later.
I'm just going to take another piece.